All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin here. So this is still the same range that I've been covering now for several weeks. It is a dynamic range, right? So meaning that it does change a little bit over time because it is still active. It's not a time period that's closed off. So if you think about it like a candle body, right? If you're looking at the monthly candle, the open and close obviously changes throughout the month until that month closes. So this is why the bottom of this range is kind of varied a little bit over the last few weeks, right? So at a time, the bottom of the range actually came in right here when we came down and we found this level right there. And now the range low is actually back up towards about 38K, right about the monthly open. The range high has actually remained the same. So I just kind of want to point that out. If you've been keeping up and catching these live streams daily, that's why the range low is a little bit different. It's the same range. It's just it does change based on volume, right? So depends on how things unfold here. But yeah, so yesterday we were doing the live stream in the morning, and I was kind of covering the idea here where I don't know if anybody was even talking about this at the time, but I just kind of caught it in the morning, and I was looking at this as when you similar to how when we were looking at the major inverse head and shoulders on Bitcoin a couple weeks ago. Let me zoom this out a little bit. This setup right here, right, when we were at the top of the range, actually back about 45K. Everyone's looking at this inverse head and shoulders and anticipating that to break out. It had a target of like 58K, yada, yada, yada. And realistically, I mean, it could have played out. But if you didn't have any, kind of downside areas in mind, then, you were in for a bad time over these last few weeks as we kind of dropped out of that. But had we broken out of this inverse head and shoulders, right, it would have confirmed a couple other things as well, right? We would have came through, would have broke the range high. Realistically, the yearly open is over here as well, right? The yearly open is right there, about 46,000. So you would have, reclaimed the yearly open, which is an area you want to be living above as well. So it would have had a couple of other confirmations on top of, a pattern here that would have been broken, retested, and the way you would have went, right? And that's really what you want to wait for anyways on a lot of these patterns, unfortunately, right? If you're looking at that as a trade, is that you want to wait for that breakout of the neckline and a retest. Prematurely getting in any setups, can lead into this. But regardless, to the naked eye, you probably weren't looking for, the yearly open, this and that. And if this didn't go through, probably didn't have anything in mind to the downside. When in reality, all we did was we came up, we got rejected at the range high. And essentially, you're going to cycle the whole range at that point, right? And at the time, our range low was actually all the way back down here at 36.3. So that's exactly what we did. Fell out of that for a bit. We ran it back down to our historic range from last summer, right? So this is the range that we keep dropping into. Don't want to live in there too much. Obviously, we got out of it so far. We got out of it now. But that's this range right here. And we came down, tagged the EQ. And this is where we turned around from. Got back into this, and I brought that whole situation up because we kind of had a similar scenario yesterday where if you were just looking at, in the sense of a pattern over here on Biddy before this huge run up here, you might have been looking at this as like a bear flag or a ascending channel, which, do tend to break to the downside. If you were looking at this as a bear flag, you would have had a measured move back down to like 36K, whatever. When in reality, what we were doing is that we dropped out, right? Why did we come back down to this level yesterday or the day before, 37K, right? We had our weekly pivot generate, and it's exactly where it was, right? Fell down to it, got the retest, backed into the range low here, and when we got back into the range, right, what do? Got back in, got accepted, came back, found support at the range low, and away you go. And essentially, you had all these levels up here to look for. Obviously, we got a lot of quick action here, which we do tend to see. Even back here when the last time we did the same thing. Like I said, the bottom of the range previously was actually right here. So when we regained into the range here, we found support at the low, and we basically just cycled straight through. Note where we found resistance at the last time we entered this range at. This was the point of control. Right, so this level right here is a major volume target. So we basically rallied straight to it. Got a little bit of resistance there for a hot minute. After that, we had a quarterly key level, and then essentially we ran it up to the range highs. We got a little bit of a rejection from the range high, came back down, found support at the point of control, tried another attempt at the range high, got rejected again, put in a lower high, insinuating we'd see some more downside here, and we basically stair-stepped it all the way down back to the range low. Yesterday was pretty much a similar situation where we re-entered the range, held the range low, took off for, like I said, live. You can see where these 4-hour candles, or this was a 1 hour, I suppose. Let me see if this lines up. Yeah, the 4 hour just busted right through it. So, on a 1 hour time frame, we were watching this, and you can see how the 1 hour candle basically shoots up, gets hit for a second right here at the 2-year key level, which is a major area we wanted to see get back above. Basically just blasted straight through it, right? Next area that we get caught up at right there is about 42K, right? And this is basically the point of control. If it loads back up, there it is. So you had that point of control, this white line right here, come in right about 42. Same deal, basically just kind of sat here for about 2.5, 3 hours yesterday, and then just blasted right through. And now, so far, we've actually cycled through from range low all the way back to the range high of about $45,000. And this move here is very similar to what we tend to see this these quick moving candles, right? And even though for us, right, we were looking for, when we were down here in this range here, you have to prepare for the next areas there. So even while, $32,000 was a major volume target to the downside, we came down to 34K. So $2,000, and let me see what the difference was between that and that lower target there. Right here, this 32,200 was the target we were looking for if we got rejected at that EQ, right where we came down and we found some support for a hot second before we turned around. This was that previous range right here. Range low comes in at about 32.2. We found support at the EQ and we turned around from there, right? This is the thing with all, this is a 5-6% difference here. And how many people do you think panic sold? And this is what's really crazy sometimes is that, and I talk about this all the time, is like, even if you can't afford, if we get down to this level and you anticipate that we could go to 32, it's another 6%. Yeah, that'd be 15% for the alts, whatever that may be. But if you haven't made any moves on the way down from 69K till 34, and you're trying to capitalize on this possible 6% move here, it's not smart, right, in that aspect, because it's just too big of a risk for it to do exactly what we did here. And and it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if this was to go down, this would have been another 15% hit to your altcoins or another 6% hit to your Bitcoin. But you got to weigh out, and this is just for next time, right? This for anybody that did that scenario. But just be aware of these levels, and when we get there, if we get there, there's a why behind it, and don't panic sell when you get there. Like if you're still holding everything by this position, it's really not worth trying to gain that 6% or 8%. Like that's too much stress on yourself anyways, because even if we did come all the way back up here, then you dropped, it's always a big mind game there. We saw the same thing about 40K last year, where 40K in September, right? Same scenario, right? 37, 38K, it was about right here. 37, 38K was a major area that a lot of people had their eyes on, and that was maybe an 8% difference from where we fell to, right? 6-7%. So you gotta stack your orders, or just like I said, for anybody that's not able, if you're all in the market already and you're holding from such a high level, I mean, it's maybe just the time where you just hold it out and just wait through it, because when these moves come through, and September was the exact same way. October 1st, you weren't getting back in, right? If you had sold out at these lows, we did not get a chance to buy back in, and that was really, really tough for a lot of people there. And we're kind of living out the same situation now, where the market just straight up ran it back. From here, what do we look for now, right? So at this level, right, everyone is looking for a pullback. Everyone is looking for a pullback. I don't know if we'll get it when everybody wants it, right? We could get one right now. Don't get me wrong. We were at the range high, pulling back down to like 43K, this key level here, or even the point of control, and maybe even this 2-year key level is something of interest, depending on how things play out here. But so far, even though things are overextended, right, starting to get some bearish divergences here and there, so far we could still punch a little bit higher here. So what to look for, right? The monthly open has changed. Obviously, I'll have to change this. This is last month's monthly open. I just left it down there because, like I said, this is where you want to be living above. And when we got back into the range, held the range low, held the range, the monthly open, we basically took off from there. So our yearly open kind of comes in right above where we are now. But if this range high is broken and closed above, right, you want to see some closures. Realistically, a 4-hour, a daily closure would be something of interest there. Then we are pretty much looking up to our next range here. And that next range, it pretty much is this one right here, right? That took us back up to our 52K high before we dropped. Let's see, we got the low, point of control, and the high. So this orange line right here is our range low. So we'd essentially be entering this range right here. You can see how when we came up and wicked through our current range, that's where we actually have seen our resistance at. So about 45,800 would be the level to look for to the upside. Now it actually have us entering into the December range here, right? We get back into this range right there. From there, we have a natural target right off the rip of $49,000. In the middle there is a key level that we've been talking about and looking for a while, right? Once we break this range high, similar to how we had in the current range we have now, we had our 2-year key level coming in here about 39,800, right? So this is a high time frame average of price right here. After that, we had our point of control, we had a quarterly key level, and we got the range high. Well, like I said, if we break out of this range right here, when we're looking up to the next range, which is essentially all of this. So all of this is the next range right here. Okay, you got your range low coming in at about 45.8, like I just said. Regain that, right? You got the yearly open right here as well, level you want to be living above. Then we'd be looking up. This right here would maybe be where we get that next resistance at. Maybe this is where we get the pullback, right? If we continue to just kind of punch straight through here, this $47,700 area, maybe where we finally see a bit of a pullback, maybe back down towards this 43. Maybe we base off this range high back at 44. And this is just, assuming that we break the range high, right, without getting a pullback first. Like I said, everybody is looking for a short. Everybody is looking for a pullback to try to get in. It's one of those times where we don't tend to see those pullbacks for a bit, right, until everybody finally FOMOs into buying in. But regardless, above here, like I said, we've had the same targets. These get activated the second we break this range high at about 45K, right? So from here, we'd be looking for 45.8. Then we got the 12-month key level of 47.7. In my opinion, this is probably where we'll see that next major resistance if we break through this range. Then we got the $49,000 point of control. So this is a volume target up here. And then you have the range high of that area as well at about 50,250. So not only is that psychological area that everybody we've been at 50K several times over the last year. This is going to have that big rounded number effect, but in reality, this is actually the range high of that December area. All right, so that's our targets to the upside for now. I'll go ahead and close this, but just kind of taking a peek at where we are, right? You still want to see that range high broken to get there. Doubled up for a second, so just kind of going over Bitcoin here, right? We're going to take a look at some altcoins here in a second as well. We're going to take a look at VeChain, probably Luna, a couple other ones, and Ethereum, of course. So another thing I want to point out here, so for anybody that just joined in, right, what I was saying here, if you've been, I do these live streams every day, and I've been covering this range here for several weeks, and basically yesterday live, right, we were going over how we basically came down. We had our weekly pivot that generates obviously every week, right, so this orange line right here was our weekly pivot. And essentially that's, a big reason why we kind of broke this little range for a hot second, came down, retested that weekly pivot. From there, we re-entered the range low, right? Held that as support. And this was yesterday's live stream live. We saw this little candle launch from there. And essentially, if you find support back into this range, right, the ideal situation is that you're going to cycle through the whole range. And we did literally just that all in one day. Very similar to what we did over here, right? At the time, the range low actually came in right here. Like I said, this is a dynamic range. It does change similar to a moving average based on volume. What we did is we found acceptance back in the range, held the range low, and we straight up ran it back, right? So this was our point of control, major volume target. From there, we ran it up to the range high, got rejected, of course, and then we basically just cycled it all the way back down to the range low. Okay, now the difference here, and you can see it sentiment-wise, and I think it has a lot to do with the news, right? So, and I want to point this out because, we go back and forth about news and, is that what moves the market and this and that, and that's totally for you to decide, of course. But what I want to point out is that this low right here that was initiated from, let's just say, we fell out in the same area basically, right? We fell from this high over here of about 46K, and our recent low came from about 46K. So let's just say these two moves to the downside were the exact same size. This, if you're going to go off the, and once again, nobody wants to see a war by any means, but if you're going to get wrapped up in the idea that this is because of the conflict, what was the difference between this? Because we got more of a drop because of a Fed meeting or because of energy crisis in Kazakhstan or whatever the news was at this moment, when WW3 is breaking out and we didn't even pull back to the same magnitude. It's just something to think about for yourself. Once again, I don't watch the news. I don't pay attention to it. I don't keep up with it at all. And not because I don't want to, or it's not obviously important. It's just, for me, I just focus elsewhere, I guess. But it's just something I'm pointing out there, just to kind of keep in mind. Obviously, there is times when, news catalysts, timing of release, or the stock market opens and they take a hit and crypto takes a hit at the exact same moment. And I think that the time sometimes is correlated, but what happens a lot of times is that we get a big move to the downside, and about right here was when, things started really picking up. And then by the time we get down here, now all the worst news is coming out, and you've already either been stressed out or panicking along the way. And then this is where people start panic selling, thinking that we're just going to completely melt to the downside. And the worst news is going to come out at the bottom, just like the best news is going to come out at the top. Just something to consider. Once again, totally for you to determine if how you want to strategize around fundamentals and technicals if you're going to. So regardless, and essentially what we did here, and like I said, we could have came down at 32K. 32K was definitely what we were eyeballing, and not because of any reason of just that's where we wanted it to go. We entered back into this range right here, which this range is set in stone, right? This is a time frame that's already passed. This is not changing. This is from a year ago. Note that where we came into right here, right? We found it before, and if we would have cycled through the range low right here, that would have been right at this weekly NPOC, which is a major volume target. This was our other weekly, this is actually a monthly, so this is another major volume target right here, which is where we found that first low at. So assuming that we were going to come down to this one here was not totally out of the cards. Once again, you were only $2,000 away at this point, but you can't, totally bank on that. Right, you got to pay attention once we basically regain this EQ, and realistically, when we regained the point of control right here, this white line across the board here, this is in that previous range. Once we regain that point of control, then things change, right? And then that's when we basically took it to the next level, just shot right out of this range. So we did not want to be living in that range for too long, so that's exactly what we did. Let me clear this up real quick. But here we are, right? So we got acceptance back into our current range, held the range low, cycled the entire range, right? So right now we're basically coming into the range high. And yes, like I said, if you're looking at RSI, you're coming into overbought. This is the 6 hour, so 4 hour, right? You're at 76. This can go higher. This is the thing, right? These RSIs are just kind of a warning signal, but not necessarily the end all, right? We could punch this up to 90. Whatever, just something to be aware of there. On the 1 hour, you do have some bearish divergences coming in, right, where we're getting slightly lower high in the RSI, and you got the higher high, obviously, in the price action, but that's just on the 1 hour time frame. So, yeah, very, very interesting to see how this played out. Another thing too is this inverse head and shoulders, right? Which a lot of times these very obvious patterns, they're a little tough to, not tough. A lot of times they don't play out very well, right, for Bitcoin because everybody's watching it. Not everybody watches every altcoin. So sometimes on the altcoins they're a little bit easier, a little bit more probable that they're going to play out, right? So this inverse head and shoulders from yesterday, this is the same thing that I was looking at earlier, right? Is that you can kind of put some context behind this because, could this play out for sure? Where would your target be and why? Well, you're going to measure that head, that neckline to the top of the head there. And that actually puts you right here where we are now. And at the same token, right, that puts you at the range high. So, yeah, very valid thing to consider once we start breaking this 2-year key level regardless, is that we were going back to the range high, and that was actually the target of this inverse head and shoulders. So that has been met now. Now the question is that are we going to break this range high? Like I said, many are looking for a pullback or looking for an area to short, you might. It's a tough call because I think that it's likely we may actually run it through this range high, and then the next area that we may see that pullback is going to be about 47K. From 47K, I would imagine we could come back down to this quarterly key level, maybe even the point of control right here at 42. Even maybe this 39, right? This 2-year key level. These are still the major areas we've been looking for, and they have some major Y behind their support. And this 39K area, if you remember the doomsday box, right? This is where we want to be above, right? Levels to regain for upside. We wanted to come up and kind of ride through there. So the upside levels are obviously back on the table at this point, and so. It just depends on how the price action reacts now, right? So this range high is very important to see how we get what the reaction is right here. This is major resistance, so I mean this is not an area where you should be blindly buying into, because this is of all this, right? This is the biggest area that you probably want to pay attention to get that rejection. But if you punch through this, come back, retest it, regardless, punch through it and start closing above it, we're probably cycling higher. What's today? Tuesday? Yeah, so tomorrow we'll have another exclusive members only update tomorrow night in the Discord. For anybody that's interested, by the way, Magic Internet Money, this handsome gentleman right here, is my partner here on Leading Crypto, which is our Discord server that we put together just last month. Here we go over everything from altcoins, Bitcoin setups. We do 2 exclusive member market updates every single week, Wednesday night and Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. They are recorded here for anybody that misses them. There's an academy with 20 plus videos where we teach you everything possible that you need to know about creating a chart, reading a chart, trading, anything. If you know absolutely nothing about trading in this market, this is going to take you step by step, get you caught up and up to speed in that aspect. Got charts only, where everybody can actually post their charts from the membership. We got order flow, which is a completely different resource here that most people are not going to be able to access or understand. So we've got a order flow and open interest specialist, Max, right here. He goes through this daily with us. He's going to be actually joining us on our live streams on Wednesday and Sunday. So he's going to be going over the order flow live with everybody twice a week as well. And then we have all types of educational content in here, right? Got a whole book collection, which is worth its weight in gold alone. If you want to learn how to do harmonics, anything and everything is in here. Fibonacci, and anything you need to be successful in this market is in there, and that's all downloadable, and any member has access to that. So if anybody is interested, go ahead and click the link in my bio to join that. And if you do, go ahead and watch the last update that we put out on Sunday, so 2 days ago, because it basically outlines this entire move. And there's the reason that we would anticipate that $48,000 area to be the next major place where we probably see a pullback around. But that's pretty much Bitcoin. So very simple. Just a perfect example of a range rotation, basically, right? Basically fell out, hit that pivot, right? These pivots are key. Very, very rarely do you not come down and hit your weekly pivot during that week, fell out of our range, basically regained it, held the low, cycled the entire range. Generally, you don't see it all in like one day, but that's Bitcoin for us, right? All right, and then like I said, looking next is that you're going to be looking to see the reaction off this range high at about 45K. You start breaking above that and holding above that 45K. I break above this 45K, and then we're looking up, right? So you got the range low of the next range right above us at about 45.8, your yearly open, and then, like I said, the next major spot to pay attention for is going to be that yearly key level, 47,700. Between there, 48, 49, so this $2,000 range. If we just kind of continue straight up, that's where I imagine we're going to see our pullback. If we do get rejected here at the range high, however, then yeah, we still have our quarterly key level right below us. You got your point of control, which is also a quarterly key level as well, right? So it's pretty much double stacked right there. Just take it off because the point of control is enough. You got your point of control right here, and then you got this 2-year key level. And at the end of the day, we would not like this to be lost, right? Because, as you can see here, you'd have your, series of higher highs and higher lows. So we would want to see that put in. Speaking of higher highs and higher lows, just something to be aware of, right, is that we have not yet put in that higher high quite yet. So while this could be viewed as a higher low, this is also why I do anticipate to see some continuation upside to the upside, that we probably will cycle higher towards that 47, 48K and put in that higher high, then get the pullback from there. And essentially what we would have done there is we'd have our low, and you obviously have other ones along the way, but you got your low, you got your high, you'd have your higher low, and then let's just say 47K is where we come up next. You'd have your higher high, right? So and then even if you pulled it all the way back to this 2-year key level, once again, you have a higher low, and this would just be a solid uptrend, right? So that is yet to be seen, of course, but that is something to kind of consider too. So that's what gives me a little bit more lean towards we might see this range high just pop through. With that being said, however, you really want to wait to see that reaction right here, right? So that's about 6% to the upside. And speaking on that one more time, right, is that just that when we were down here at 34K and, we were anticipating that we could go to 32 and that, whatever that would have meant for everything else, I did see a lot of people selling out right here. And like I said, I think it really, this time around, unlike here, this wasn't as scary, I don't think, to people. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but this level right here, I know that we had like a Fed meeting and whatever the case was going on, and maybe everybody was panicked about a bear market or something, but this was definitely more panic induced due to news, right? So that being said, when you sell out at lows like this, right, it's a double-edged sword that you got to consider. And I bring this up just to kind of put that into perspective for anybody for the next time, right? Because we see this every single time. And while, yes, you have to prepare for the lower levels, right? Like I said, like we were prepared for 32K. Did this mean panic sell, or not even panic sell, like that? But just does that mean sell everything around here in attempts for that? No. I mean, if you're going to be doing anything like that, then you really want to be selling at range highs and looking for lower price action, right? And then if you miss the bottom, obviously when the validation is that you're probably going to be running it back up, and that's when you re-enter your range, and so on. But if you are holding throughout and you get down to these lows, that is not the time to sell. And could you go lower? Absolutely. But this is the double-edged sword, right? Because this is where, say you sell out and it worked. Say we did go down to 31, 32. Okay, great. You capitalize on the 10% move. Guarantee most people will not actually buy there, okay? Because what happens when you get to the next level? Well, you're going to look at the next level, right? And the next level, and the next level. You're always going to do that. So it's just something to kind of consider regardless. But when you get down to these lows, think about that. And then on top of that, what were you risking here, right? If you sold at these lows, you're risking 10, 20%, let's just say, for altcoins. And then when you jumped out of this, now what are you down? Because most people probably did not just panic buy, even back here at an 11% rally when we basically re-entered the range, and that was realistically a low area. And then now where are we at? 30% move in Bitcoin, almost a 50-60% move in all the altcoins from the low. And you're worried, or you're not wanting to buy back in, right? Because why would you want to buy back into something that's up so much already? You're gonna look for that pullback. Well, it's one of those times where we might not get that pullback for a hot second, right? And I'm not saying jump in everything right now, because we could, right? We're gonna look for this reaction here. What this whole statement is about is just kind of consider next time for anybody that did that, or if you do get to those times. That's one of the biggest reasons why I come on here every day, right? Is to, if you're not able to capitalize on these market moves, meaning if you weren't able to sell at a higher level, whatever, well, then just be aware of what we have to, what we're going to endure here, so that you don't panic sell the lows. That is the number one thing you do not want to do, for that reason. But yeah, you risk, capitalizing on 10-20% to the downside. But if you don't, if you're not paying attention, if you're not by the computer, if you don't have limit orders in, or whatever the case may be, well, then you're going to miss out. Even just this move right here was the equal move to the upside that you would have lost to the downside. So just pointing that out for whatever. So that's Bitcoin. Pretty simple in the aspect right now, right? We're looking to see if we get a rejection right here. If you do, look for this quarterly key level, point of control. And realistically, this 2-year key level down here between 39.8 and 43. Aside from that, break the range high, and we're looking at yearly open, right? You got yearly key level, and after that, if we do just continually straight up, it'll be the point of control at 49K and then 50K area for the range high. But this key level up here, just pay attention when we do get to that region. And like I said, post all these updates daily in the Leading Crypto Discord. So if you are interested in getting access to all my altcoin updates, I pretty much do at least 10 or 15 charts a day. I try to even take some requests, when possible, if it's something that, I think would benefit everybody, as long as it's not like some random, Santa coin or something. Magic does his Bitcoin analysis, which is just outstanding, to say the least. We've got our recordings here where we do member-only market updates, which this alone, if you don't even come in and check any of the charts, check any of our posts, if you just watch these 2 videos a week, Wednesday and Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, you'd be 90% ahead of the curve every step of the way. So far, the last few weeks, these recordings have basically outlined the entire move from 52K down to 33, from 45 back down to the range low where we just were the other day. And then our Sunday live stream actually mapped out this move back to $47,000, $48,000 range, right? So for anybody, if you're joining today, go ahead and check out those. They're all the last videos are in here. They are a little lengthy, but if you 2 hours a week, and you would have so much less stress, I feel. I've also got an academy that teaches you pretty much anything and everything about this market, 20 videos and counting, and all kinds of other things in this area as well. And then we got order flow, which I don't think anybody's really out there teaching this kind of stuff. So we've got an order flow and open interest specialist, Max, right here. He lives in Dubai, so overnight he's holding it down for us. And it's jam-packed with value here. Lots of educational content. You got a whole book selection for anybody that's looking to read up and learn on anything that we use, right? Any of our tools and resources. If you're looking to trade harmonics, if you're looking to learn about order flow and open interest, everything, volume profile, everything you need to know, all in here. All those are downloadable for everybody. And that's, once again, Leading Crypto. Link is in my bio if you're interested. I think that's all I got for everybody today. I may jump back on here later tonight if we get this range break and do an update there. Hope you'll have a great day. Till next time, cheers.